Star Wars, and I was not a fan. I grew up a fan of Star Wars. I even thought that the second set of films that came out after the originals were okay, not my favorite, but they didn't turn me off of Star Wars. They didn't, make me not want to watch Star Wars again. The most recent Star Wars did. It was filled with propaganda. The acting was terrible, and I don't even care about the next Star Wars anymore. But Rob, you saw the new Star Wars last night too. I know that you, like me, are a Star Wars fan. What did you think of the film?
Notice the walkers have now become knuckle draggers. They kind of look like gorillas now. I thought that was an interesting touch. But it all starts off with Star Wars: The Last Jedi in the scroller. It says in capitals, resistance.
Yeah, the resistance, the resistance, the resistance.
The resistance, not the rebels. Now they're the resistance. They've been renamed to fit in with today's SJW
And they got their leader with the purple hair who's clearly a SJW liberal. The propaganda is absurd.
Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, everybody. Spoiler alert. We're going to spoil some stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
spoiler alert, it sucks.
do save the day numerous times. They're always there saving the day. But let's talk the acting. First of all, Mark Hamill, I'm sorry, subpar performance from Mark Hamill.
I think he was uninspired because he didn't like the story.
Could be. And overall, I thought the story was I would say, it was my favorite part of the film, which isn't saying much. It was like a 5 out of a 10. But the acting, I thought overall the acting was just, it was really bad. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the franchise anymore. They're just trying to play lip service to too many different SJW ideals.
I think that you just hit it on the head. I think that that's what it is. They're trying to shove so much propaganda into the film that watching it, you get lost in it all. That you can't even, it's like I'm not even watching a Star Wars film because they've got all of this little propaganda and all these little subconscious things that they're shoving down your throat.
And there's a lot more there was always animals in Star Wars, like we had the Tauntauns and we had Ewoks, but the running horse things and then these ice cat dog.
Well, let's not forget too, there's the scene where Chewie is about to eat, I guess it's essentially like a little chicken or something.
Yeah, a little bird.
And then the other little birds pop up and it's like, oh, don't eat it. Clearly vegetarian propaganda. I mean, it's just like,
No, and then you had
I like meat.
We can't have any racing. We can't have anything in the new. And notice, it was okay that they went and destroyed the Vegas planet. Planet Vegas is what I would call it. They go through and destroy it. It was the black character and the Asian character. Spoiler alert, people. They go through and destroy these casinos, and they're like, that felt good. We stopped the man, because they were supposed to.
We're the resistance.
Right. But the funny thing was Benicio del Toro's character points out the hypocrisy. He's like, look, they sell to these guys. They also sell to you guys too, pointing out that all this stuff is funded by the arms dealers, essentially. The military industrial complex always wins.
Well, here's my thing too. Obviously, just because of the brand name Star Wars, they're going to have a huge box office opening weekend. But the thing that stood out to me was the Monday box office numbers that were half of what they were for The Force Awakens. Right. And to me, what that indicates is that people didn't go back and see it. They didn't like the film, so they didn't go back. I saw The Force Awakens in theaters twice, so I would have been that, Monday box office guy. Those guys don't exist anymore. I genuinely think that Star Wars really hurt their base of fans with this film.
I would agree. I would totally agree. And I'm not looking for my kids, though, they like this one better than Force Awakens. My kids liked it. I think it's definitely garnered toward kids, but I did point out all the things to them. I said, you see what they're trying to do with this? Did you notice the resistance in the beginning?
Yeah, it was kind of I think you're right about that. It was kind of more towards a kid vibe, like a more immature audience.
Well, they kind of, after Empire, they kind of all went towards kids.
Yeah.
I think they stopped being serious, really.
Selling products. But they can't even sell products. Product sales are severely down after this Star Wars. All right, I suggest don't waste your money on the new Star Wars. I just watched the old ones.
You're at Freedom Command Central. Yes, it's the War Room with your host, Roger Stone, joined by my colleagues, Owen Schroyer and the great Rob Dew. What we see now, gentlemen, is the Brer Rabbit strategy. That's where liberal Democrats run around saying, oh, the president's going to fire Mueller. It's going to be the Christmas night massacre. It's going to be the New Year's Eve massacre. They're trying to induce our president to fire Mueller in an attempt to regain the upper hand. The last 3 weeks have been so damaging to Mueller and his probe. He seeks now an error by the president in order to recoup. If the president's reading INFOWARS, he can go to my long piece yesterday where I outlined a strategy that is far superior than firing Mr. Mueller. That is, quite simply, ordering Attorney General Jeff Sessions to appoint a special prosecutor in the matter of Uranium One. Such a special prosecutor would necessarily have to have within their purview Mr. Mueller, Mr. Comey, Mr. McCabe, and the supervising U.S. attorney in that case, none other than Rod Rosenstein. These four men, of course, cannot continue to probe the president if they themselves are under federal investigation. So, Mr. President, don't take the bait. I spoke to one reporter this morning who said, well, the president is headed for Palm Beach tomorrow. He'll be mixing with his various right-wing friends. They're going to whip him into a frenzy. And therefore, on New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, he's going to fire Mueller. Don't take the bait, Mr. President. I'm not saying, of course, that Mueller doesn't deserve to be fired. He most certainly does. But this would only allow the mainstream media to recycle the narrative of the Saturday night massacre under Richard Nixon and to try to regain the initiative. Owen, how do you say it?
Well, I think that Trump is smart enough to kind of see these situations where he's being baited. And the only thing that, to me, is I don't see why it hasn't already been done. So I think that Donald Trump probably already sees something coming in the future with this, and that's why he's not rushing to get this Uranium One probe. But there's stories out today. I mean, you got NBC News today, Roger. Prosecutors ask FBI agents for info on Uranium One deal. And this story is indicating that Jeff Sessions is now finally looking to stir up some interest and maybe some momentum for an investigation into Uranium One. But I completely agree with you, because what happens if they do that probe, if they do investigate the Uranium One deal, that pretty much indicts everyone in charge of the Russian collusion investigation into Trump right now. I mean, what are they going to do when the people investigating for Russian collusion are caught colluding with Russia?
Yeah, it's really quite extraordinary that the four gentlemen who are twisting the president's tail, his major tormentors, are the criminal perps involved in the cover-up in what could be the single largest treasonous financial crime in American history. There is a blow-by-blow blueprint of exactly how uranium went down on the Infowars.com site now, so you can understand this extraordinary scandal. In essence, two things were going on at the same time. The Clintons were moving at warp speed to try to close a deal to line their pockets, at the same time giving a Russian interests control of 20% of our uranium and mining rights, literally worth billions. And at the same time, the Obama administration was slow pedaling the investigation into that activity. In the end, Mueller not only shirks his responsibility, shifts the investigation over to the Baltimore U.S. attorney, who happens to be Mr. Rosenstein, and then, as a sign from the Clintons, presumably, to the Russians that everything in the U.S. is under control, they actually use Mueller as a carrier pigeon to carry uranium samples to Russia. This is meant to signal the Russians that you don't have to worry about an FBI or Department of Justice investigation. It is the smoking gun.
Well, we've reached a point now, Roger, and I was talking about this earlier, where, I mean, everything is coming back on the Democrats. It's not even us sitting here in an echo chamber talking about Uranium One, talking about the Iwans and the IT scandals, talking about all of this. It's all coming out now. I mean, it's all coming out. And I just don't understand the mindset of people right now that just either act like it doesn't exist, choose to ignore it, or just completely discount it. I mean, you've got Joy Reid, this complete nitwit on MSNBC. He's like, oh, the Uranium One has already been debunked, Roger. There's no Uranium One deal. There never even was Uranium One. In fact, uranium doesn't even exist. You know, I mean.
Yeah, no, look, I think Joy Reid is mentally deranged. I saw her virulent anti-gay bashing or gay bashing tweets on her old website recently, and they turned my stomach. As a libertarian, they make me sick. She's literally an airhead. She wrote last year that I counseled Donald Trump to cozy up to the Russians. How would she know? She's privy to my conversations with the president. We've never had any such conversation during the campaign or after it. Donald Trump has no illusions about the evil of the Russian system. He has no illusions about the motives of Putin. On the other hand, he doesn't think thermonuclear war over Syria is a good idea for Christmas. And who can blame him? That's what this is really about. It is not only an excuse for why they lost the election, because it couldn't be the brilliance of Donald Trump and the extraordinary historical campaign that he ran without polling, without massive paid media, without all of the modern accoutrements of a campaign, where the Clintons outspent him, God knows, 7, 8, 9 to 1. No, it has to be the Russians. And then the deep state's real beef with Trump is he won't go along with their plans for the next war. He won't go to war over Syria. That's what they really object to. Hillary Clinton promised them an expansion of the proxy war in Syria. They were licking their chops, as were their defense contracting buddies. So that is what is the important background here for people to understand. I want to take a minute, Owen, to talk about the extraordinary specials that we have going on now at the INFOWARS.com store. We are under siege as never before. I'm sure many of you saw this test run that they played out in Chicago last week, where they cut the INFOWARS transmission on radio, blaming emergency preparations by the UN. Folks, that was a dry run. I think they intend to try to shut us down everywhere. And we don't have, the war chest on hand today to fight these people. We are paying for a giant expansion. And that's why Alex Jones has slashed the prices at the INFOWARS.com store. Some of these products, when I was in Austin the last couple of days, I had a chance to try. I must tell you, Alpha Power, it fuses the best of the old and new. It fuses, ancient Chinese herbal medicine that goes back centuries with some of the very finest quality modern ingredients to give you a product that really lifts your performance and your physical energy. If you're an athlete, would strongly recommend this, but even if you're a mental athlete, you have to put in the hours that we do, Owen, this is a great product. And at 50% off with free shipping, this is what I want in my stocking. Of course, we have Brain Force Plus, my favorite product, one that gives you a mental and clarity and physical energy. So help yourself, help the resistance, help us beat back the globalists, help us pay for the extraordinary expansion in programming and facilities that Alex Jones has mapped out. You will not see price discounts like this again anytime soon. We want you to try the products. That's why in many cases, Alex Jones is willing to lose money on your first purchase, because you will see how fine these products are. And folks, go to the auto ship. You will never be without. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the War Room. I'm your host, Roger Stone. We are pleased. I was pleased to say that I got my Christmas present early this week when Alex Jones took me to the range and had an opportunity to fire a whole series of automatic and semi-automatic and non-automatic weapons. I grew up in an urban area, and I never had much experience with firearms. I have a respect for them and their proper use and the proper training in the use of them. But this was really a truly great experience. Now, for those liberals who are ripping their hair out right now, no, we don't advocate violence. No, we're not fomenting violence. you're confusing us with Antifa. They're the ones who would like to move towards a violent confrontation to tear down our society and our Constitution. There, you see it there. We are, that was an amazing, amazing experience. And my thanks to Alex Jones and the INFOWARS crew for setting it up. A piece of news here from Arizona, 86-year-old Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who was, as you know, Owen, pardoned by the president only months ago in a conviction that stems from a political hit job by the Obama Justice Department, is seriously weighing running for the U.S. Senate seat of the retiring Jeff Flake. Now, Joe Arpaio may be 86 years old, but he is a sharp, energetic 86. And he has a vast name ID in the state of Arizona. What could be a greater present for us than Sheriff Joe Arpaio replacing Jeff Flake in the U.S. Senate, Owen?
Well, and you think about Sheriff Joe, he's a fighter, too. You know, this is a guy who is not going to kowtow to liberal policies and political correctness while serving in the Senate should he choose to run. I'd be very excited for that. I think that there would be a lot of excitement for Sheriff Joe Arpaio to get into the Senate. And, you know, what we're doing here, Roger, is we're identifying senatorial candidates, candidates for the House of Representatives who are going to get in and get behind Trump's agenda. They're going to put America first. They're going to represent the people, not career politicians that put Washington, D.C. first, not career politicians that put whoever donates to them first, but politicians who've actually served in the community, in the country, from the private sector, what have you, that want to get in there and get Trump's agenda through because they've seen the obstacles that come from the Senate and from the House of Representatives. And, you know, let's not forget, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, has said before he thinks Barack Obama's birth certificate was fake. Sheriff Joe Arpaio did the actual investigation into the birth certificate, and he found out that, guess what? Yes, it is a forgery. So, I mean, just think about that dynamic being in the Senate. My, oh my, what an amazing difference that would be from what we had in the Senate just 4 years prior.
No, there's a terrific story on the INFOWARS site by Dr. Jerome Corsi only days ago about the federal agency's involvement in the birth certificate controversy. Now, Sheriff Joe would have to make his case. That would be one of the things that I would expect to see in a campaign. But you're right. He's a fighter. It's not just that he's a fellow Italian American, although I do love him for that. I really hope Sheriff Joe will make this race. I'm waiting with bated breath to hear.
Yeah, and of course, this is the state of Arizona here, where Jeff Flake, as you said, is going to step aside from Snowflake, Arizona. So again, you get a soft Republican who goes against Trump out in Jeff Flake, and you get a hardliner who wants to get in to back Trump's agenda in Sheriff Joe. So, yeah, that's definitely exciting. We'll be keeping our ear to the ground on that, and be sure to stay tuned at Infowars.com for more on that. What else you got on your radar today, Roger?
Well, Owen, if you watched the president's press conference yesterday, or press event in which he hailed the passage of his historic tax cut, the biggest tax cut in American financial history, you can see how relaxed and gracious he was, and how he was anxious to share the credit with Mitch McConnell, with Paul Ryan, with my friend Senator Orrin Hatch. You know, he may be oblivious to the fact that now that the House and Senate Republicans have passed the tax cut, which unfortunately in some cases they larded up with their Wall Street sweeteners, that they now have greater license and perhaps a greater intention to turn on this president. Donald Trump being gracious, sharing the credit, the McConnells and Ryans, in my opinion, continuing to plot behind his back for his removal. It's important to recognize, though, that the wind is now to the president's back. with these enormous tax cuts comes a boost in his popularity and a boost in his support and a galvanizing of his base like we have never seen before. When you combine that in real time with the revelations about the Mueller investigation, Peter Strzok, and the McCabe exploits, and the activities of Rod Rosenstein, the president has really strengthened his position. That's why the Democrats are trying to goad him into firing Mueller in an impulsive move. See, they're hoping that the president will go to Palm Beach and that he will mix with many of his strongest supporters who are understandably furious about Mueller's probe, and that he will act precipitously and impulsively to fire Mueller. As we said in the first segment, there's a much better way, Mr. President. I'm hoping that Don Jr. and Eric and some of the other members of the Trump family will point out to the president that he can achieve the same thing through the appointment of a special prosecutor in the Uranium One matter, as I outlined on the Infowars.com site only yesterday.
You know, the amazing thing about everything that's happening right now, right here during Christmas time, I think it's fair to say, Roger, I mean, I would say, in my opinion, this moment right now in the Trump presidency, at least so far, is the best. This is the most victorious, most magnanimous, most American moment that we've had. The tax cuts, everything coming back on the Democrats, them being exposed, the Mueller probe being exposed. I mean, this is just like ultimate victory season right now.
And if you were in Austin yesterday while the president was speaking, you could literally hear liberal heads exploding across the land, exploding in a pink mist as the stock market soars to record levels, as unemployment goes to record lows, as the housing market takes off as never before. Trump is
there it is, Roger. Look at that. There, America takes off, America roars, and then there's a deluge of liberal tears.
Welcome back. I'm your host or co-host, Roger Stone, broadcasting from the new New York Bureau of INFOWARS. We're still working out some of our technical bugs, but as you can see, we have a lot of memorabilia here in the studio, and we're grateful to be with you today. This expansion not possible without your loyal support for the INFOWARS store. Joining me now is one of my favorite supporters of the president, Pastor Mark Burns of Easley, South Carolina, easily one of the most important African-American voices in the 2016 campaign supporting the president. Pastor Burns, welcome to the War Room.
Honored to be here, Roger Stone. With the Roger Stone. Honored to be here.
That's a fine-looking necktie you've got there, Pastor.
Well, coming from you, that means a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, I want to talk very specifically about something dramatic that happened last week when you were visiting with the president. I think we first broke the news here because I heard about it literally minutes after it happened, and then the Washington Post followed INFOWARS, probably the first time that that's happened. But you actually literally, when they say Mark Burns has the president's back, they're telling the truth. Tell our listeners and viewers what exactly happened.
Roger, we were in the Oval Office, and I was in the Oval Office, and we were presenting the president with the Friends of Zion Award. And for everybody to know, the Friends of Zion Award is an award commissioned by the 7th Prime Minister of Israel. And we was presenting this award to the president for his courage of recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And as I'm sitting beside the president, standing beside him, he's about to receive the award. He's behind the Resolute desk, sitting down. And I'm literally sitting to his left. And then in my peripheral vision, I saw this massive, huge, $half white spider literally running up the back of the president. This is literally on his spine, running towards his neck. And, it was quiet. It was quiet. Roger, you've been there. He's presenting, he's getting an award. And then all of a sudden, I just saw the spider and just reacted. I saw the spider, smacked it hard. I don't know how hard I hit I hit him pretty hard. and when I killed the spider and I grabbed it, and you got to understand, Roger, I hate spiders. Like the millions of viewers that are watching me, I hate spiders. And I caught the spider. And the president, he didn't jump. He didn't overreact. He wasn't scared. He wasn't even startled. I mean, Roger, you know of all people more than anybody, the president is a man's man, and he gave me that kind of a look like, he turned and he said, he didn't say anything. He just gave me a look like, hit me one more time. Hit me again.
Yeah, no, he is a cool customer. We saw that on the campaign trail. That thug jumped up on the stage and started running towards him. You didn't see him cowering. You didn't see him ducking. No. His entire campaign is a profile of bravery and courage. And I know that he loves you and trusts you, Pastor Burns. That probably has some role. How did the Secret Service react to your quick reflex?
They didn't. You would think that they would have, come out the woodwork, but they didn't, because again, they've seen me. I've been on the campaign trail, for a long time, and I've been interacting with the president for a while. But I immediately began to, say, Mr. President, I'm so sorry for hitting you, but there was a huge spider, and I began to explain to him. And he said, well, did you kill it? Did you kill it? I said, I did, Mr. President. It's dead. Here it is. He said, well, you saved me. And then I began to yell immediately, Secret Service, please don't shoot me. Please, please. Please don't shoot me. I just saved the president's life. I deserve a medal. And everybody bust out laughing. And
when you say you got the president's back, you're literally not kidding. Now, I can't resist the opportunity to talk some politics with you. There are many, many people in your home state of South Carolina, I know, who are urging you to seek public office. Some would like you to run for state office, maybe on the ticket with that great Republican governor, Henry McMaster, who I strongly support, and I know you do also. A strong supporter of the president. Still others hope that you would challenge Senator Lindsey Graham. You noticed in yesterday's photo op how Lindsey kind of sidled in there. I noticed in the New York Times a week ago one sentence that said Lindsey Graham, who is building a closer relationship with the president. Clearly, John McCain not likely to be in the Senate much longer. God bless his soul. We pray for him, but he is gravely ill, as he has acknowledged. So what's your thinking about seeking public office?
Well, Roger, you're absolutely right. It's not just people in South Carolina. I'm getting, letters and emails and from literally people all over the country. I just got back from the great state of Nevada, some wonderful friends there supporting Dan and Tarkanian in the race there against Rhino Dean Heller. And so we got to get him out in June. And so there are literally people all over the country in California. And I'm just getting overwhelmed, Roger, to be honest with you, of the support that is starting to gear up nationally and even here in South Carolina. But, as I've always said, my number one goal first is just to support the president of the United States of America. I've never, desired the spotlight. I never pushed myself out there, and I'm a pastor. And as a pastor, that word is a shepherd. My job is to be a servant. I'm a servant to the people. And if there's an overpouring, and there's starting to happen, an overpour outcry of people desiring me to serve, then I'm at the will of the people. But right now, my focus is supporting President Donald Trump, traveling the country, listening to your wisdom. You are an amazing mentor to my life. You are an amazing, deep wisdom. You really know what you're talking about, and you're one of the reasons why I've become a success in this new move, Make America Great Again movement. But so really, I'm just at the will of the people. If the people desire it, then let it be known. Other than that, I just want to serve my God, serve my Lord Jesus Christ, and serve my family and continue to serve the will of the president, whatever that means, whatever capacity that will be. And I want to serve his vision.
Well, I know you're praying over this, and I know when the time comes that you will do the right thing. A lot of people were surprised last week when Vanity Fair reported incorrectly that I was writing a book called The Downfall of Donald Trump. I never anticipated writing such a book. I am outraged by the excesses and the partisanship and the viciousness and the hate and the resolve of the Mueller phony investigation and the Mueller hit squad. And I only pray that the president will wake up soon and realize that the low-key trust Mueller strategy of his current lawyers is a recipe for disaster. I'm deeply committed to this president and keeping him in office, as I know you are, but I really think his lawyers misunderstand the deep enmity of the political establishment for him and their resolve to remove him under any circumstances possible.
Absolutely. Roger, what you're saying, you're hitting it right on the nail. I mean, the deep state is absolutely real, and the deep state will do whatever it can to remove people like you, to remove people like me. And they're filling the halls with this Mueller and this fake collusion that is taking place. I mean, you called it out way before anybody else did. And INFOWARS, you know, who are on the front line, Alex Jones, who are on the front lines of really telling it like it is to the people. You know, it is without question, you know, a travesty in American politics, and it desires to have no place, fits nowhere in the White House. And I pray that the president wakes up real soon to Mueller and this false collusion that's taking place.
All right. Well, thank you, Pastor Mark Burns. We're about out of time, but I thank you for joining us, and check in with us early next year. I like to get your take on how the president's doing, but congratulations for saving the president's life. The country is indebted.
Thank you, Roger Stone.
That's Dare Bingle, as he called himself, Bing Crosby, the groaner, one of the great crooners of American entertainment. And I just spent 3 days in Austin, a really great experience. The energy at the secret Freedom Command Center that is INFOWARS is really extraordinary. Great to be with you, Owen, with Rob Dew and Harrison Smith and so many others in the brigade, and everybody there kind of does double duty, helps everybody else, fills in for each other, because we recognize that we are the resistance. We are the cutting edge of the movement to protect this president from his enemies, foreign and domestic, and that we have been the first ones to sound the clarion call about the deep state efforts to remove him by any means necessary. Now, Owen, I've been in American politics for 40 years. I've seen a lot of strange things. I've seen a lot of Kafka-esque moments. But yesterday, when I saw that the Obama NSA director, James Clapper, said that Al Franken was removed from the Senate or was forced to tender his resignation, which of course still hasn't happened, it was at the direction of Vladimir Putin, and that once again, repeating the lie, the fabrication, that I did anything other than report this matter, which I did. So Clapper, an admitted perjurer, a man who testified under oath for the U.S. Senate, that no, America has no metadata collection system for its citizens, only to be disproved by the revelations of Edward Snowden, now wants us to believe that Putin is somehow involved in the removal of Franken. It's one thing to have a clown like Tom Arnold, the washed-up comedian, making baseless charges like Stone coached Tweeden, the woman who first accused the senator of sexual assault, for weeks. No, Tom, actually, I've never met the woman, never communicated with her, never spoken to her. And then you have a nut job named Richard Painter, Dick Painter, as we call him. This guy touches on lunacy. He's all over CNN and Fox saying that this was a Stone Fox takedown of Franken. You know, Dick, put up or shut up. If you've got some evidence that my role is anything other than breaking the news here first on INFOWARS, produce it. But, you know, a member of the bar should have a higher regard for truth. Your zany, almost insane comments without any foundation in fact or any evidence are really growing tedious. perhaps what we should do is exactly what you say. Let's have a full Senate hearing, an investigation into what happened to Franken. It's not incidental that 6 out of the 7 women who have accused him of sexual assault are liberal Democrat activists. Or did I orchestrate that too? This is really reaching the point of ridiculousness. But I'm going to be joining C-SPAN for their Newsmakers program, which will air this Sunday. And I hope to have an opportunity to address this. I find it inherently unfair that Mr. Painter is allowed to go on Fox and CNN and make these baseless, irresponsible charges against me and INFOWARS, and neither network affords us the opportunity to respond. How fair is that, Owen?
Well, fairness, I mean, my goodness, I don't even think fairness is within the realm of possibility when dealing with these people. The crew just flashed that Salon article. I mean, this is beyond ridiculous, Roger. This is downright insanity when they are so they're so high on their own BS that they've convinced themselves that somehow Vladimir Putin is literally pulling all the strings of what's going on in the news cycle. Oh, a story breaks, Al Franken accused of sexual assault. Must have been Putin. Donald Trump cuts the Americans' taxes. Oh, it must have been Putin.
No, at this point, if you get a parking ticket, obviously Putin has influence with the meter maid.
Yeah, Jake Tapper gets a parking ticket. Putin did it.
Yeah, no, there's no question. Look, I think we both recognize that Tapper's well aware of the fact that on January 1st, my Mr. Stone's International Best and Worst Dressed list will be made public. And a lot of thought, and a lot of analysis, and a lot of listener input goes into this list. Now, Jake, in all honesty, because the list is non-political, there are liberals on it, there are Democrats on it, Ted Kennedy's been on it, even Eliot Spitzer was on it one year, in which he upped his game before he went to the Zuckerberg-style hoodies. But we know that that Jake is probably upset about the fact that you, Owen, are heavily slated to replace him on the list. You made it last year. I think you are likely to make it this year. Now, we do not do this lightly. This is not just Roger Stone's friends are on the list. There are people on this list that I don't particularly care for. But this is not politics. This is something a little lighter, but not unimportant. That is style. You see, fashion is fleeting. Fashion comes and goes. Neckties get thinner. Neckties get thicker. Women's skirt hems go up. Women's skirt hems go down. But style is forever, Owen. And the number of people who can count themselves as truly stylish is very low. You know Stone's rules: look good, feel good. Right now, I'm trying to order the appropriate size Tom Mix style cowboy hat for our friend Alex Jones, because he has a distinctive look, and I think it would kind of cap off the full Texan in him. But I'm having a little trouble tracking that down in time for Christmas, but we're working on it.
I like that. I'm picturing it now, Alex Jones in the cowboy hat, and for some reason, shirtless on a horse. I don't know. That's just something that Alex Jones likes to do with Vladimir Putin. You know, Putin probably made that call too. I just want to say, you know, swank, Stone on style. We've got the site up right now with last year's best and worst dressed. I would just like to just put my 2 cents in here, Roger, real quick before you depart from the program today. From what I've seen, Rachel Maddow really belongs on the worst dressed list. I mean, that woman has no idea about fashion or how to look good on camera. And then, you know, I'm not sure if Cenk Unger or Chunk Yogurt, has the man ever been to a tailor? Does he know that you can get suits to fit you? I mean, I don't know if he's aware of that. So unless he can get to a tailor before you publish the 2017 best and worst dressed, I think that Chunk Yogurt belongs on there again.
Yeah, well, look, he is definitely an emergency case, and he should be rushed to the nearest quality tailor to see what can be done. Look, we kid around, but this is something that a tradition that I picked up from Mr. Blackwell of Hollywood. Mr. Blackwell was an arbiter of fashion, was a was a Hollywood-based designer himself, and he would have this withering commentary on the best and worst dressed people in America, and he could make the career of a young movie starlet or an actor or an athlete or a socialite or even a business person. And we just try to carry this great tradition forward. So we're still compiling our list. Yes, there will be some liberals on it, but this is about style. It's not about your politics. So if you have recommendations, folks, you can go to stone@stonezone.com. That's stone@stonezone.com, the email box I'm using for input on this matter. And if you want to look at last year's list, go to stoneonstyle.com. One thing you can bet on is that Steve Bannon is likely to make this year's worst dress list, which in all honesty, Steve, who's an incredibly good sport, thoroughly enjoys and gets a giant laugh out of. But I don't understand the button-down shirt on top of the button-down shirt on top of the button-down shirt. But I like his politics. It's his style that I don't care for.
Yeah, and I think, I don't think we have the photo evidence. Maybe you're sitting on it. I don't know. You are going to publish a story here in less than a week. But, you've got Brian Stelter that wears sandals with his suits. So, I mean, that's cringeworthy right there.
Yeah, no, I have a firsthand report on that, so I know that it's accurate. It's very sad. Brian Stelter is the man who fashion forgot and style never touched. Thanks for a great show here at the War Room, and folks, don't forget, hit the InfoWars store for all your Christmas shopping. Help the freedom lovers and the patriots in your family, but help yourself and help us at the same time. Deep discounts that we can still get to you in time for Christmas if you act now.